Welcome to Rev Up Your Business with Hilda Gann. We are now in season 5, and we've changed the name and the focus of the podcast. Rev Up Your Business is the podcast for small to medium-sized business owners, entrepreneurs, and HR professionals. Each week, we share tips, strategies, and trends on how you can build success in your business. I share my expertise as a people-centric leader in work culture and human resources. My guests share their expertise in human resources, marketing, sales, finance, IT, leadership, and the multiple facets that you need to take care of your business. If you love to learn and want to find out how you can rev up your business, join us. Welcome to another episode of Rev Up Your Business. We're starting a series together with my colleagues Dianne Clark and Neil Cosby from Trendspire. And we're going to talk about the effectiveness of your business as business owners and HR professionals. Think about it. It's been 4 years since the world was disrupted by the COVID-19 outbreak. What was a life-threatening illness killing over 7 million people worldwide as of March the 5th, and over 703 million confirmed cases to date, forced many businesses to work remotely for many years. Some of us have returned to work thinking of resuming the way we're operating, and everyone's back to work in the office 5 days a week, in their workstation with little change. But is that realistic? Over the course of the next few weeks, we are going to do series looking at effectiveness of owners, looking at human resources and its impact. So stay tuned for what is going to be 6 to 7 sessions with Neil and Dianne. Let me tell you a little bit about them before we get started. So Dianne is a PMP, and she's a leading expert in creating collaborative workspaces. She's founded in Niagara, Canada in 2000, her company, Trendspire. And Neil and I are delighted to be part of her work team. She provides a service for doing Canadian digital adoption program, which ended recently, as well as assists countless public, private, and non-profit organizations with strategic growth during uncertain times by empowering leaders with digital tools and the strategies for an informed and AI-driven decision-making. Neil Cosby is an HR consulting manager. He started his career as a social worker and became more business-oriented and got involved in human resources because he's passionate about it. He calls himself an HR nerd and has worked in various industries in the private and nonprofit sectors and in unionized and non-unionized workplaces. He's a true believer in the necessity of building solid HR infrastructure in any organization that is aligned with its business goals and its organization. Neil's developed many organizations from the ground up using his wealth of knowledge, experience, and expertise in HR systems, recruitment, and talent acquisition, health and safety, performance management, and employee relations. So before we get started, we want to say we are experts in many ways, and we have knowledge and keep abreast of trends. And what we're sharing is a conversation. It's not meant to be advice. It is our opinion, and our purpose is to help you think about how you impact your organization, move your organization forward by keeping abreast of what may need to change. Today's focus is on effectiveness in the organization through transformation. So I welcome Dianne and Neil to join me in our conversation today. When we were developing this series on effectiveness, we thought the first thing really is to talk about is transformation. As I said in the intro, we've been in a pandemic situation for 4 years. And so what does that mean? And some people surprisingly are going back to the way things were. Well, the way things were isn't appropriate anymore 4 years later. And so I guess we're thinking transformation is the key for survival and thriving in this new world that we live in. And maybe we can start by just saying, so what does transformation mean? What do we mean by transformation?
Yeah, well, transformation is a complex term, and often many businesses and organizations are fearful of it. But the new normal is not a benchmark or a goalpost. It's something we have to deal with on an ongoing basis. Transformation is, not something where you start and end. I think we're going to be dealing with constant change for quite a while. So I think we need to know that this is an ongoing process. That's the hardest thing to describe about transformation. But in terms of definition, it's more of a fundamental change as to how organizations operate. Um, Very different than before the pandemic, and may not be the same in 4 years from now either. So
I very much concur with what Diane is saying, and I think when we speak of transformation, it's very several areas. To be honest with you, I think technology is the preeminent one, and even prior to the pandemic, that was accelerating. And I think that during the pandemic, because of our reliance on technology to get work done, it accelerated it even more. So you have to, organizations they really have to stay on top of the new technology that is coming around in order to be as effective, or they get left behind. There's transformation in thoughts about the employer-employee relationship, and what does that mean? And there was many initiatives that were started during the pandemic that employees have said we still want this to continue, and that encompasses many different areas. And the one that pops to mind is mental health, but there are certainly more examples as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, and I will just echo, transformation is, you called it fundamental change. It's almost impactful change. And I was talking to somebody, they say, oh, I want to describe my business. And I think, I was going to use the word change because transformation sounds too like the buzzword. And I said, well, it is the buzzword, but change sounds like incremental, evolutionary, but transformation almost requires a metamorphosis, an actual shift. And that is more impactful than just the buzzword change. So I said, I'm sticking with transformation because, yes, it may be a buzzword today, but it is what we are undergoing, what we should be undergoing is impactful change. Impactful change from COVID-19. And I guess that brings into mind, so what are some of those challenges? And Neil, you kind of alluded to it, that people are needing to change. But what are some of those key challenges when we think about change? Because it's not a comfortable word sometimes for people.
No, it's not. And I think, I agree with you. Change is kind of not the term I would use. I think transformation, because it is more, it's a lot more than how we see change. As you said, it's slow, it's evolutionary. Transformation is quick, and you have to be quick to, I hate to use these overused COVID terms of pivot and agile, but that's really what you need to do. And it has to be done quickly. You can't, in some instances, say, okay, we're going to implement this in 6 months. It's got to be quicker than that. So it's a different mindset of both leaders and employees as well. And leaders, I think, have to understand that what employees are seeking is quite different than what they were looking for prior to the pandemic. We've also had kind of a tsunami of events happen vis-a-vis, hyperinflation, which is also impacting the need for more change. World events as well have impacted, and that is causing a lot of transformation. So it's not a one tier answer from my perspective. We have to hit this on many different levels, but the bottom line is getting your business in a way that you're getting the best out of your employees by providing them with the tools to achieve that organizational effectiveness. That doesn't mean you have to give them everything that they're asking for, or you have to blow a budget. It's all within reason, of course. But it is important to stay, as you have highlighted well at the beginning, Hilda. You have to stay on top of this and be prepared for uh, to address new things that are coming in and decide, how do we make it fit? Can it fit? And if we do, how fast can we do it?
So you're talking about speed and agility, and I know Dianne's got lots of ideas about speed and agility when it comes to the tech stuff. Do you want to comment on that, Dianne?
Sure, yeah. As Neil said, many are dealing with more competition now than ever, and are so much just simply covering their bills right now. If they stopped operations, that's the crisis is that they would probably still owe money and services if there is a bit of a crisis that is spurring organizations and businesses to consider change. And what does that mean in terms of business transformation? I often think of it as digital transformation, which is similar. What I think of it helpful to business owners is to leverage data and analytics to better understand customer and client needs and behaviors. If business owners can harness that data, the decisions are going to be better. So even if there's one thing that transforms a business, paying attention to and reformatting data into visualized kind of charts and graphs and pie charts and whatever makes sense to you to make decisions, dashboards, those are all very helpful to transform businesses. It also means automating processes to make frictionless or impactful experiences for clients and customers. Automating processes means more relationships can be built one to one, while the automated processes look after the day-to-day grind of exchanging information. So I do find that can be transformative as well, is if you automate some of the processes that seem to be a grind for most of your employees. Not only do the employees feel like it's more productive and feel better about it, your clients will come back again and again with reliable. They know what to expect. They know that you care about them having good experiences, whether it's at a counter or whether it's on a website, signing up for an event or a program, or even just purchasing a product. That's important to put your mind to, is to make those very high on your list of priorities in terms of transformation and the success that you can get from it.
I think what we've been kind of talking about is several points, is that as a business owner, as a business leader, you need to stay abreast of what's going on. What are the current trends? Neil, you alluded to it. It's a tsunami. And as a leader, we need to know what's going on in terms of the world, not just my industry, but what's going on globally. What's the impact of that? You forget, like you say, oh, it's inflation. And you forget the reason why there's inflation is, number one, the cost of goods skyrocket because there weren't supplies available when they weren't being manufactured during shutdown. The economy, the cost of freight also went up. All these factors that you as a business owner need to keep in mind is impacting on your business. And the fact that, Dianne, you said data. So data is important, but you need to layer that within the context of what you know about the internal working of your business and the external implications. And all of that pieces together need to be synthesized so you can make decisions that are going to transform you. So we've been talking about the leader. Let's continue to talk about the leader and what are some of their key roles in transformation. Obviously, you said they need to gather data. They need to make decisions. What other things would we share with leaders that they need to be thinking of if they're going to make this transformation successful?
So I would start off with communication. There's a lot of leaders have a lot of good stuff, a lot of good knowledge at their hands. Good leaders surround themselves with people that are even smarter than them to be able to assist them. But in order to really properly implement any kind of transformation, the communication from the top down to the various levels needs to be consistent. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be timely. It needs to have a rationale in some sense, because all of this transformation, that can be, what word do I, it can be, have a lot of employees wondering what's going on here. And even to the degree of, will I still have a job? I mean, some of the tech changes we're talking about, that yes, they make organizations more efficient, but some employees may be thinking, this is going to get me out of a job. So we have to ensure that the communication plan is there, and also at times being open to input from the various levels of employees. That doesn't mean that they have the final say, but being open to what employees have to say and questions, and making sure that they can communicate up so that their voices are heard and valued.
I would say that, and there's research to support that when leadership is involved, whether I mean, any leader is involved, they're twice as likely to obtain success in transformation. That means involved from the outset in learning about what's required, being there to make effective decisions based on stakeholders, which are your staff, employees, and your customers. So if you're informed through communication channels about what your stakeholders want, then you're going to make effective decisions and be there for the process. Be there to support everyone through the process, and you're twice as likely to get through and have success. There's also an 80% more likely that you will outpace your competitors if you start a transformation process, which is pretty high. But it's really it's pretty telling when you could see that you're going to get at least 20 to 30% higher. It turns out to be higher either in productivity rates or in your profitability. Again, those are not my numbers. Those are supported by recent research.
Yeah, yeah. And everything says that companies that listen to their employees and collectively gather, understanding of situations and problem solve together, you get a better outcome, a better solution, and you get more buy-in, and you get numbers that say those companies that really do embrace change and move forward are more likely to succeed. And I think, the role of that leader is really to inspire, motivate, and instill trust that we're going in the right direction. So I reiterate Neil's thing about a communication plan, because oftentimes when we're helping implement changes in our organizations, people forget that communication plan. So it's always part of my framework, because it's so easy to forget. 2 months before you launch, you need to introduce the topic, and then you need to update them, and then you need to share what the outcome of rolling it out is. You need to keep them informed. And it's not just, oh, next week we're starting this, we better send out a memo just to tell people, read the policy, and we're implementing. So it's got to be more than that. And I think,
if I might add, Hilda, it's also getting them excited about it. I mean, transformation can be very exciting with new tools, new processes, new ways of doing business. So, you talked about motivating and inspiring, get people excited about this.
right. But how do you create that? I think a leader's role is to help create a culture of change. And I know myself, even in my 30s, when I reflect back on my career, I've been that change agent. I've introduced many, many new things. So it becomes very I've become very accustomed to change. And I'm not one of those that changes just for the sake of change. I change with a purpose. And I think one of you mentioned that earlier. And let's go back to this idea of change. Like when you hear that word, those that are listening or seeing our conversation, what does it do? Does it excite you and ignite you? Or is there a gut wrench in your stomach kind of curling and tightening into a ball? I asked about what are some of the challenges of change, and we kind of missed a few things that I want to come back to. When we create a culture of change, not everybody's going to embrace it. There's going to be that fear, resistance, or no, it's always been this way, we're going to do it. Like the people who have not done any changing, and that's an exaggeration, but very little changing and going back to the way we were 4 years ago. But our world is so different now. So there's that fear, the fear of the unknown. And how do we overcome those resistors in some of our staff who are going to feel that way? Even some of the leadership team, trying to drag them into, 2024, 4 years post-COVID.
Partly it's bandwidth. I think as much as people are working to be able to fit something else or more into their current work schedule is frightening. But when you can place some kind of optimistic goal for them, I'm lucky enough to say technology is sometimes a bit of a carrot to inspire people to feel excited. But I do think it is a personality difference, and what I find early on, if we are if we do get to interview people who are on staff, you'll find that champion within staff who's excited, who will fit it in at regardless of the cost of the time to. And when you do find that champion who's excited about the change and what's going to be coming, then empower them to take a bit of a lead with others. It's their opportunity to shine and to showcase what their skills are, and to inspire the others not to bring it down. Because the other personalities who are more negative and feeling overwhelmed, they might get a little calmed knowing that someone else is going to be excited about it and bring them along as well. So I do think the champion piece is in the personalities, recognizing that some personalities are more resistant to change than others, and to know who they are, so you know kind of how you can guide them.
And I think just to dovetail on those very excellent points that Diana said about bringing people on board is, yeah, while we shoot for 100% acceptance of transformation and change, it's not going to happen. So those that are not on board with it, they may self-select out and move on to other things that are more in their rate of speed. Or unfortunately, we may, companies may have to make that decision for them depending on how much they are resistant to it. And that is unfortunately just a business fact, a human resources fact. But as long as we're doing our due diligence, or businesses are doing their due diligence to make this as comfortable as possible, and you can safely say you've done that. But again, I just go back to the point that you'll probably get 98% of acceptance rate of change, but I don't think you'll get 100%.
Any tips and strategies on how you help to overcome that resistance to change? Dianne, you've already mentioned champions, and I think that's an excellent thing, because when you bring on a champion, they're dedicated and they can really help to explain and motivate others who may be a little bit of your later adopters, right? There's the early adopters, and that's where you'll find your champions. And then there's the late adopters, and that's where maybe the early adopters can kind of help them move along so that they're in a more comfortable level. But any other tips to overcome the fear of change, and therefore the fear of exponential change, i.e. transformation?
So I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, Hilda, with and as well as Dianne, with data and metrics. once you can start showing the business case for, we implemented this, this is what happened, it's been successful, I think you will start getting a lot more acceptance. And that goes back to, this is a communication piece, a strong communication piece. I also think that if you can communicate effectively to employees, this is what's in it for you. This is how much it will make you a more productive employee, even a better employee. Then that's a key strategy as well. So.
Yeah, it'll provide them with more time, perhaps an opportunity to work remotely, a better balance, work-life balance. There'll be, I think those things are, if you're doing transformation in a thoughtful, purposeful way, then you're going to get those outcomes for employees, and that they may be inspired by that.
I like that word, thoughtful, purposeful way, because we didn't talk about strategy, and I know we want to keep our conversation to a minimum, so we're not going to get into the details of the strategies. But when you're implementing, that is the key. Like if you have a terrible implementation, you don't communicate with your staff, no matter how good that transformation is, it's not going to be as successful unless you have a process that is well thought out, that is carried out and communicated well. I think these are the keys to success of a transformation. But going back to that communication, in the communication piece, think about what are those benefits of this change, and share that and remind people we're doing this because it's going to make our life better. We're going to be more productive. We're going to be a better team, whatever that thing is. Now, any other thoughts on what are some of the benefits of transformation before we wrap up?
In terms of communication, I have one thing, and people communicate, or their best ways of communicating are different. Some are like the written word, some like the spoken word, some like, short text, some like longer and more explanatory. But with unified communications and opportunities to present information in different ways, even though, it might start out as a written and then end up being spoken and summarized in different way. I mean, we have all kinds of ways to unify communications in ways that are good for each person, in the individual. So the opportunity today for communicating in different ways is endless. So I feel that that's the opportunity we have today with digital, to add to the toolkit for business owners. I do want to mention too about, there's a trend towards, in transformation is often about composability, or I don't know if anyone's heard that term before, but that's kind of what businesses are being told. They have to address composability, which is more integrating all of the things that your business runs on, and making sure that they're all on the same track. So that is your communications, of course, to be part of that, and any operational processes that you're really doing the best to integrate them onto one track, rather than have 5 different
Yeah.
products, services. Bring them all together if possible.
And I know in upcoming sessions that we're doing, some of them will be like talking about increasing productivity through unified communication, which you just alluded to, and some of the things that Neil and I kind of touched a bit on. We're going to talk about engaging talent post-pandemic. Why are people having trouble keeping their talent? Why are people having trouble recruiting talent? And that's what we want to talk about in terms of, how do you get talent? How do you use the digital world to enhance the ability to hire and keep talent? And how do you minimize the fear of some of the digital aspects to make it a healthier, more balanced world where you keep your staff? Other things we want to talk about is the wellness and work culture and health, and running your business from a mobile device. So these are some of the interesting topics we're going to do. I want to thank both Dianne and Neil for coming on and kicking off our effectiveness series with the transformation idea. And now we're going to go and talk about the different kinds of transformations in upcoming sessions. And I want to ask if you guys have any last comments before we tell people, summarize and invite people to contact us.
So I would say, and I think this has been a theme throughout, is, don't fear transformation. Don't transform just for the sake of transforming, and make sure that communication is clear in transformation, and work with experts to try and implement the right fit for transformation. Have people take a look at what your business processes are, what your human resources processes are, and let them provide recommendations to you. And again, if in a transformation process, hopefully it runs as smooth as possible, and for the most part it will, but there will be bumps in the road, and that's to be expected.
Exactly.
So don't fear those bumps in the road either.
Totally agree with that. As a final thought, clear objectives as to where you want to go. I often boil things down to 3 E's, which is effectiveness, excellence, excellent product effectiveness, efficiency, which is time, the time to do things, to shorten the time to do things may save you money. So efficiency, and economy, which is the prices that you're charging. Those 3 E's, every business wants to achieve and do all three. You want to have an excellent product, very time constrained, as fast as possible at a really reasonable price. The fact is not all three can be done. It's almost impossible. You should choose two to have as your priorities, and those are part of your objectives. They can be your objectives. I want to be more efficient. I want to have a lower priced product so that I'll have more customers. So I do find that that objectives piece is important, and never be afraid to ask for help. I do find a lot of business owners are afraid to ask for assistance because digital and technology and transformation is very complicated and complex. And it's not even a matter of here's the answer. It's working together in partnership to find and discover and the best solution for your company. It's definitely not always going to be the same as for someone else.
I love the way both of you have summarized. So I'm not going to summarize anything additionally, because I think you both put it very, very well. And I enjoy the conversation that we've had. I think we've come together collaboratively because we see the strength that each one of us brings. And, you heard Neil's wealth of knowledge in human resources, as am I, but I am the host. So I share my anecdotes when I need to, but I love, Neil's expertise and his ability to think things through when it comes to human resources. And for Dianne, she is the techno whiz. She talks about technology as if it's very, very calm, very methodical, very natural. And she sources out all the different possibilities and looks at the uniqueness and needs of a particular organization, company, and makes those suggestions, recommendations. Not, oh, geez, this is a good product for them, without even knowing who they are. And you just seamlessly walk through the techno world, and you've got statistics to back it up. So I'm looking forward to our subsequent series of discussions where we will help people understand the effectiveness of their business through learning more and more about those things that impact. So thank you very much, Dianne. Thank you very much, Neil. How do we get a hold of us? How do people get a hold of us? Dianne, do you want to do the honors and share that?
Sure. Our website is at trendspire.com, or you can feel free to email us at effectiveness@trendspire.com. And we will be happy to have a meeting with you or reply with some suggestions, whatever you need.
So thank you very much, Dianne. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Hilda.
And to those people who are listening, give it a thumbs up. subscribe. You don't want to miss the upcoming episodes that we kind of highlighted. And we'll be doing those in succession, or maybe a few and then a break and a few more. So you get used to seeing the three of us on Rev Up Your Business. Again, thanks for joining us, and do subscribe if you don't want to miss any of the upcoming sessions. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Business with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date with all of our latest episodes. For more HR tips, strategies, and to learn how you can create a people-centric workplace, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.